I've just spent Thursday and Friday in Manchester. And I know, when I go to these days in Manchester, when we have our prayer days, there's always just so much stuff, my brain's buzzing with it. And some of it's like, I really want to share this with people because it's amazing what's going on. So I'm sorry, there's going to be a message moment. And they quite frequently say, you need to get a message Sunday at church and bring a message speaker in. And I do it every time I'm up there. We will do it at some point. But I wanted, there's a couple of things there, because we've had 2 days, kind of the focus has been on global. At the beginning of the academic year in September, when we have 2 prayer days together, we have everybody together in the room in Manchester. We bring in our grocery teams, as many as can be there. We bring in our Eden teams, so we've got like the community transformation aspect of it. But we bring in all of our global teams as well. So we've got all our folk from Canada, we've got our folk in from Germany, from the Netherlands, they've been in from Africa, as in the continent, not just one particular place. And we get feedback on all of these areas that we work in as an organisation. And I always find it's a mental overload because you get so much information, but it's also incredibly exciting what we hear. And we don't always just get the good stuff. It's not just like, yeah, this is amazing. We hear the lows as well as the highs. But just to encourage you, there's a couple of things. The guy who heads up our work in Africa, it's kind of the work out there started in Cape Town in South Africa, so in quite a small area. And there's been a lot of prayer over the last probably 10 years into kind of how we kind of take the message, and that's not just the messages in the organisation, but the messages in the gospel, kind of further into the continent of Africa. And Tim put up this map on the screen showing where at the moment they are in some element working in Africa, whether that's advance, which we'll be starting here, whether it's they've got a hub in the area, whether they've done, like there's conversations going, kind of whatever that might be. And if you imagine the kind of the Africa map with the dip down here, all the way from the tip of South Africa up to this kind of sub-Saharan belt is coloured in, because there is something happening, there are conversations going on about either starting a hub or taking evangelism training or something happening up to this top section of Africa. And so the prayer now is how they connect with people in that top section to work out what interest is there, what way is there. And that's where you start to get into your Muslim countries, predominantly Muslim countries. And then a little bit later on, we heard from the guy who heads up our advance work across the globe. And he said, actually, we've got stuff starting in Morocco, and we've got stuff starting, I can't remember the other, those in South Sudan. And so that little bit that was blank, by the end of that day, you're realising that even up there, things are starting to happen, and people are, even in the kind of places where you think it's really hard to get into, actually, through the Christians working in that area, there is progress being made. And so you kind of see this map of Africa, thinking it's not going to be very long before there's something happening somewhere, everywhere. We've got a hub in South Africa and a hub in Uganda, and there's likely to be a hub in Zimbabwe soon, and there's going to be a hub somewhere else soon. So we hear, when we think, I think what I'm trying to say is we can sometimes feel quite despondent and quite, the gospel's under attack. And then you look at things like this and you hear some of this stuff and you think, there's progress that we don't always hear about. I mean, that's not going to be the whole of the country, those individual countries, but there is something starting to spark in all of these different countries. We'll be starting to use the advanced material in Connect groups as of October. Advance is now being used in about 108 countries across the globe. There are pockets of it. There are over... they always try and kind of bring the figures right down, but you've got tens of thousands of groups using the advanced evangelism discipleship training across the globe. And some of those are in countries where the church is not allowed to be. So there is something happening in all of these places. It's really exciting to hear. The sort of countries where you can't give the names out because you don't want to risk anybody's lives out there. It's really exciting and really amazing. Brain overload. To then coming into today and looking at this passage for today. But I'm also really, really struck, and I want to say this somehow, but it doesn't really come into my preach this morning. But we can be fearful about what we see happening around us, and we can think there's nobody to go, or we can't go into some of these countries. But as Christians, the nations are coming to us. The nations are coming to us. In all of the rhetoric that we're hearing, there's one thing that I'd love to hear being said, is that Christians in this country, the nations are coming to us. And we need to be ready, which is what today is about. We need to be ready to share our faith with the people who are in the country around us. Because there might be people who we might not be able to reach who are coming into this country. And so think of this country as your mission field. And traditionally, we've always thought about being a missionary is about going elsewhere overseas. But actually, we can be missionaries, and we should be being missionaries in our own country, as well as everything else that's happening. Anyway, moving on. So much happening. It's really exciting. Ephesians 6. I don't know whether you remember, but a year ago, as we went into our week of prayer, at the beginning of October last year, we focused on the elements of the armour as we went into our week of prayer. And a year on, it's actually really great to come back to this today and kind of just settle as we're thinking about ready, steady, go, and in the readiness of what is next for us to kind of come back into this passage and think about the armour of God again. Now, there's kind of brain drain, I can't get some of the words I want, but the kind of the pictures that get used through, particularly the New Testament. Ephesians kind of takes us to the battle. You think Paul is speaking to the Romans, and he's got, in his mind, he's got the image of the Roman army around him. But also, we also use the imagery of a race. And we see that a lot in the New Testament. Kind of the Christian life is like running a race. And so I'm going to try not to mix my metaphors too much, but there's going to be an element of both of these today. We're running a race, and it's also a battle, and we need to put our armour on. So if I get confused at any point, yeah. I wanted to start off. Luke was saying to me this morning, Mum, why are you taking that to church this morning? And I said, you're going to have to wait and see. And I don't know whether he's even going to want to come and see what's... Luke, are you going to come and help me, or are you not going to? Do you want to know why I brought random things with me this morning? You want to know, can you come and help me? Do you want to bring Alex with you? No? No, shrug of shoulders. So we're talking this morning about being ready. And I just want to let a little bit of a picture this morning about the wrong kit versus the right kit. And Ephesians 6 takes us into the right kit, but it's possible to have completely the wrong kit. So if you want to think about that kind of aspect of a running race, maybe you're going to go and play a football game or something like that. And there are certain things I imagine you would think you need. Do you want to try putting... Do you think they've gone over your shoes? Oh, no. Oh, yeah, even better. Right. Flippers. I wasn't sure I'd find them in the garage this morning. Will they on your feet? You can slide them in there. Oh! And, yeah, brilliant. And then that one in there. Right. Now, I'm not going to ask you to actually do this, but do you think, Jessie, you could run a race in those?
No, I can't because they're too big.
They're too big. Do you think, even if they fit your feet, do you think you could run a race in them? Do you think you'd fall over?
I think so.
You think so? I know. And I mean, when you see somebody on the beach walking down to the sea, they're like that, or walking backwards, aren't they? They're not the best things for running a race in. Should we slip them off before we have a fall? Health and safety. Right. Alex, do you want to come and try a pair of shoes on?
Yeah.
Yeah? What should we go for next? Oh, you got Crocs. Amazing. Do those wellies fit you? I bought my wellies because they were the cleanest in the rack. So do you think you could now run a race and win it for me?
Yeah, other than the fact that the bottom of this one's worked. Yeah.
Oh no, wear wellies. I'm so sorry. I should have put my hands right the way inside, shouldn't I? Are they a little bit... Do they fit you perfectly? Are they the right fit?
Reasonably well.
Reasonably well. I may have picked the person with the wrong size feet for this particular illustration. Are they the best thing to wear for running a race? No, that's the right answer. I apologise for my wet ankles. Luke, mind you, his feet keep growing, and I keep thinking he's got really small feet, but they're like that now. Do you want to come and try a pair of Joel's shoes on? No. Okay, fine. They're backfiring on me. Now, do you want to try another pair of shoes on? Yes, excellent. Oh, great. So, there's some hesitation when you're pulling your kids' shoes off the rack as to what they might be like. These have not been worn for quite some time. So these are Joel's football boots, and they're quite a huge pair of boots. Now, so football boots, they would be the right thing for a football game. Excellent. Do you think you could play a game of football in those, Jessie?
No.
No, why? Not at all. Why not?
They're too big.
They're too big, but they're the right shoes, so they must be right. No. Should we pop them back off again?
Maybe next week.
Maybe next week when he's grown. Let's pop them back off again. Thank you so much for your foot assistance. There we go. Right shoes, wrong size. So it's possible to have the right kit, but it would not be the right kit. I'm not going to get anybody to demonstrate these ones, but just to say that the final pair of shoes were some flip-flops. Do you think you could run a race in a pair of flip-flops? I mean, some people probably say yes. But a winning race in a pair of flip-flops? Maybe not. Thank you, my lovely assistants. Wrong kit versus the right kit. So even the football boots, which would be the right kit for a football match, are wrong if it's the wrong size. That will... I'll bring that in a little bit further on, but just wanted to kind of try and get I just wanted to try and get Luke involved. No, it's not going to happen. Even wellies. Wellies are great for keeping your feet dry, but they're not great for maybe going into a battle or for running a race with. So we wouldn't run something, or we wouldn't do something in the wrong shoes. So in that case, going into what we need to do as a Christian, we need the right gear, not the wrong gear, to do it. I'll close my sermon there. And this is where it comes down to being ready. We need to be ready. At the beginning of the race, kind of keeping on with that picture, when we see athletes, if we're watching the Olympics, and we see them, they're getting ready, they might be warming themselves up, they're stretching, they're kind of getting themselves limbered up, and then as they're preparing themselves to get into the blocks, that readiness of it, waiting for the signal to go, that's the moment that their readiness comes to effect. But it's not all about just that one moment, because there's got to be a whole lot of training that goes up to that point that gets them ready for the point of running the race and being able to do well in the race. And this is where Paul, as we're reading through Ephesians 6, the verses from 10 to 20, when we look at the armour of God and putting on the armour of God, kind of helps us to see how, as Christians, it enables us to be ready for the work that we have to do. And we're not running a sprint here. Keeping with the race analogy, some people do 100-metre sprints, some people do, it might be 1,500 metres, some people are going out for the marathons. Actually, there's a sense in which for us, we don't know what the length of this race is going to be, but we need to treat it as a marathon that we're in for the long haul. And so our preparing needs to enable us to keep going. And how many times do we see people fall away or drift away, or we see there are some people where we see it really clearly because we see the people who are in the headlines who fall from grace or they don't keep running the race. How do we prepare ourselves to be able to keep on keeping on? And Ephesians, as you start at verse 10, helps us to see how to do that. Finally, in verse 10, finally be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. And it's remembering that whatever happens, it's not us on our own. We do this in God's power and in his strength. This isn't about what we can do, but it's about what we will allow God to do through us and in us. Like a runner who's been trained, we prepare by drawing daily on God's resources, depending on God, not relying on ourselves for what we need to do. And that's how he starts these verses. That's key. Finally, be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. Don't worry about what else is happening. You can be distracted by what else is going on around you, but be strong in the Lord. His power is what will take you. And then he lists the gear. And there's this sense in which, I don't know about you, but I've read this so many times. You read this so many times, but it's good to just have those moments where you just step back again and look at it again and remind ourselves what it is that God actually equips us with. It's there for the using, but we need to remember, like a checklist, are we actually using it all? Or are we just picking and choosing which bits we go for? So to list through them, the belt of truth. I've got my belt on this morning, hold my trousers up, keeping everything together. I've lost the bit in the passage, got it next to it and I can't find it. Stand firm then with the belt of truth buckled around your waist. Question out, what's the truth? What is the belt of truth? What's the truth that it's speaking about there? Just to make you think as well. I'm not going to give you all the answers. Truth of the gospel. The truth of what Jesus has done for us. With the breastplate of righteousness in place that covers your heart. With the shoes, not the flippers, the shoes of the gospel that give stability and readiness to move. That's your feet covered. Take up the shield of faith that protects you from the flaming arrows, what comes around you. You've got the helmet of salvation that protects your mind. There's kind of all parts of your body being protected by the armour. Heart, mind, protection from the attacks of the devil. The sword of the Spirit that enables you to fight. The sword of the Spirit, God's word that we have and hold and can use and that we need to kind of meditate on and learn and understand. That just doesn't come from walking up to your bookshelf in the morning and thinking, what should I use today? I think I'll just have that. What book is this? The Bible. I might just, shall I use, I don't know, let's go to the index. Understanding what's in there so that when you need it, you're not having to kind of find it somewhere, but it's in your heart. That when you need to be able to pull those things from it, from verses, the truths, that because you spent your time in his word, understanding his word and meditating on it, they sit with you all the time. That's what it means to be preparing, to be ready. It's not a last minute grab and run out of the house. It's a lifetime spent being ready for something. The belt of truth, the breastplate of righteousness, the shoes of the gospel that enable us to be ready to go, the shield of faith to protect us, the helmet of salvation. And there's a confidence in our identity in God there as well through the salvation of knowing who we are in Christ, knowing who we belong to, knowing and understanding what he's done for us. It protects also our minds from what might come to attack us. I wonder how often the people that we know, actually the thing that starts to draw them away from God is the attack on what they might think and understand. It's the way you put your mind, what you dwell on, can really affect what you think about and what you speak about and where you then find yourself going. I remember somebody a while ago saying that they didn't dare read certain books by certain authors because they worried that it would actually sway their mind that way rather than on God's truth. And I think there is a protection that we need here, actually. There's a protection that we need here from this helmet. And maybe this is where I was kind of looking at what I'd got and thinking, is this what I want to say today? But actually this helmet of salvation, I think is actually really important. Maybe this is where we need to just have our focus. And in that protection of who we are and who we are in Christ. And recognising that we need to be really careful about what we take in, what we see, what we hear, what we spend our time dwelling on. I keep thinking to myself, this is a social media thing, but it can be actually anything that we spend our time in, that there are times in our lives where we need to almost do a little bit of a reset. And it might be, for me, I know I've spoken about this before, but kind of that almost, that sense that with things like social media, because I can spend too much time there, that maybe every other morning I need to go into my Facebook account. My eldest would be horrified because I Facebooked so yesterday. But that's where I spend a lot of my time, and I see a lot in there. But what you see, it gives you more of that. And so if you're looking at positive things, it will bring you more of that. If you're looking at what vitamins to buy, it will bring you more of that. If you've searched on Google, why does my leg hurt, it will give you more of that. If you, I've said this before, but as I was looking through things that were relating to no more knives and knife crime, my feed was being filled by that. All the young boy killed, young boy arrested. That's what was coming in. Those were the news things that were coming into my news feed at that point. What you see, it will give you more of that. And even as you're kind of browsing and searching through stuff, it's really important to remember that what you see, what you look at, the algorithm will give you more. And so you can find your mind being taken down that route, and that bias, and there's nothing else being fed into it. I need to regularly, maybe I need to search some cat videos, fluffiness, just every now and again, but just find those things that from time to time you can search up something really positive, and that will switch the algorithm of what you're seeing, and it will give you a different perspective. Instead of starting off the day with the negative, you'll start off the day with something positive. I was actually really interested with Joe Wicks, just to use an example of somebody. There's a couple of things that he does, but one of the things I noticed that he does, he's got loads of little alarms set on his phone. He uses his phone to set the alarms. But he said that he has now decided that 6 till 8, so twice a day, 6 till 8, it's not phone free time, but it's social media free time. He kind of puts his phone aside, because those are times that he recognises that he's around with his family and he's spending time with them. And to protect himself from what social media can drag you into down this giant rabbit hole, he's set aside some times where he will proactively step aside from his phone. And that's a way to kind of help reset where your brain is going. Maybe, like me, we need to think about that as we go into a week of prayer and fasting as well. I kind of think this is really important, because that's preparing us, that's part of our readiness, this week of prayer and fasting that we're coming to. Actually, what things are there that we need to do that go beyond just the spending time together in prayer? What are the practical things that we need to do that enable us to put on this armour really, really well? Because I find myself in rabbit holes, and they can spiral you down, or they can spiral you into a good place. Put that out there. It might not be social media, it might be something else, but I know for me, actually, that's something really quite key. There's one thing in all of this list, and I remember hearing this years ago, and it just sticks with me. I don't often hear people kind of thinking about it, but it's that kind of what isn't mentioned in here. Your head, your heart, your organs, if you like, are covered. Your feet are fitted well. You've got something to fight with. That way you've got a shield to protect yourself with. But there's never a piece of armour that covers your back. The back's not specifically mentioned. And one of the things I wish I could remember who it was that said it once years ago, but that sense that this is where the church is really important in our readiness, because the church stands together. And if you think about the picture of the Roman soldiers and their shields, not the shoulders and the shields, the soldiers and their shields, and the way they used them, the size of them and how they used them, it was when they went into battle as a group, they used their shields to protect each other. They protected the whole. So they would form this arrangement where you had your shields above you, your shields to the side of you, and you have people with the shields at the back. Your back is covered by the people around you, protecting you. And I need to be somebody who holds a shield for the people around me, protecting them. We're in this together. There's a unity in being church, family, that means that we protect each other and help each other as we go into this battle. And I would imagine that they didn't just one day, as they were going into battle, think, hey, this would be a really great idea. This is something they practiced. You see people in regiments, even just when I was a guide, I don't think they do this so much now in the uniformed brigade, unless you go into things like cadets. But I remember as a brownie and a guide, we used to be taken out into the playground of the place that we used to meet, and we used to spend time marching, and we'd practice marching. Now, I remember Joel and Luke both being in Cubs and Scouts, and I bet they were incredibly glad they never had to do this. Because we would just be sent out and you'd have to get everything right. You'd have to be smart, you'd have to march in time. There was a particular way to go around a corner where your inside people take small steps and your outside people take big steps. We practiced it. Part of our being ready for a parade, and that's just a parade, part of our being ready for a parade involved practice and preparation to get there. The Roman soldiers would have learnt and practiced this formation to make sure it was tight, to make sure it was really, really impenetrable to the people around them, to the enemies around them. And that gathering, that being part of the church, the pulling in together, to walking together, to walking through life together is part of that, enabling us to be family, to be looking out for each other, to be protecting each other against the things that the enemy might throw at us. Enabling us all to put on every piece of the armour. It's no good going to battle with just the belt of truth on. It will hold your trousers up and save you some embarrassment. But it won't protect your whole body. You need all of it, and we need to be together. One of the things that so there's a guy called Tim Tucker who heads up our work in Africa, who was speaking on Friday afternoon, and he was talking about unity. He was taking some examples from Ezekiel, from Hezekiah, and how he's kind of bringing the people back together again, and this sense of unity among God's people. That it's community. We're in community together. But then he kind of brought the words out. This community, this common unity, we follow and serve Christ. Our common unity is in Christ. But then actually said it's an uncommon unity, because we're all so different and we come from so many different backgrounds and walks of life in the church, that yes, we're in common together, but it's something really uncommon. You don't see it a lot of the time out in the world. It's something incredible that the church has that you don't see in many other places. An uncommon unity that comes when the church just pulls together and protects each other, and is in that enables other people to join in as well. So in the same way that you wouldn't go to run a marathon or a sprint in a pair of flippers, I wouldn't advise it anyway, we shouldn't step into each day without God's armour. So readiness requires preparation, and it's intentional, intentionally clothing ourselves with Christ's protection and his promises. But that's not all that the passage is talking about. It's also saying that we need to be ready in prayer. So in 18 to 20, pray in the Spirit on all occasions with all kinds of prayers and requests. Be alert, always keep on praying for all the Lord's people. And then he also says pray for him, and pray that he would declare it fearlessly. You need to, as an athlete, you need to know how to breathe properly. That breathing is something that you have to learn to run a race. And prayer is kind of like that breathing for us. It's got to be, we almost have to learn how to do it. I used to ride in another life a long time ago. For a brief time, I was helping to ride and exercise racehorses. And there is something very, very different in riding a riding school pony, or whatever, to getting on a racehorse for the first time and going up the gallops. And I remember the guy who I worked for, who was kind of training with me, a lot of this was about rehabilitation work, although they had their own horses that raced in point to points. But I remember partway up him saying to me, remember to breathe. Remember to breathe. Because when you're going at speed and you're in the midst of it, actually what you do forget to do as the jockey on the back, you forget to breathe. You find yourself halfway up the gallops, holding your breath, and you get to the end and you feel like you're going to pass out. You have to remember to breathe. And for a Christian, prayer is like that breath that we have to remember to keep doing at all times and in all occasions. It keeps us focused, and it keeps us in rhythm with God. So it's not, and there are different types of prayers, and there are those moments you'll be in the thick of something and you'll be like shooting off those arrow prayers, help me. But it's not just about those. There's prayer is something that's so much more than that. It's a lifetime of constant connection with God. In the same way that when you're building a friendship with somebody, your friendship is based on those regular conversations and understanding and speaking to each other, and not just speaking, but listening, because you can't build a friendship just by talking all the time. You've got to be listening to what is said to you as well. It's a lifestyle. It's not just a moment. And it helps us be prepared, and it helps with that perseverance in how to keep on going through the race. We keep on breathing, we keep on praying as we're going through the battle. Don't hold your breath on the back of a racehorse. So he calls us to be ready. He calls us to have the right clothes. He calls us to be sustained by prayer and to be together. And in both of those kind of metaphors, the fight and the race, you don't always know how long it's going to take. You don't know how long it's going to be. You don't know what the surface might be like, what you might stumble over before you get to the end. How many times have you watched a race, any sort of race, and you see somebody, they're prepared, they've done the training, but they're still sometimes, the foot goes the wrong way and they trip and they stumble. You see these lovely videos sometimes, don't you, where other athletes will stop to help them get back up again and carry on over the finish line. It's not just about the one person getting there on their own, but how we help each other along the way as well. Nobody wants to be the kid that turns up at the school and has forgotten their PE kit. Because in my day, you used to just get given the lost property shorts. In the days when you just wore a t-shirt and pants. Be there prepared. Be there prepared with the right kit in the right place. So my challenge to you this morning, and here I end, is that each day as you're getting up and getting ready for the day, and I know that's sometimes really hard when there's a lot of other stuff going on, am I stepping into today ready in God's strength in his armour and in prayer? Am I stepping in today ready in his strength, in his armour and in prayer? And I genuinely think actually if we start asking, maybe we need to set reminders on our phone, strength, armour, prayer, to help us remember that that's what we need. We need all of them. We need all of them together. And maybe this is something, because we've set up these two WhatsApp groups. If you're not in one and you want to be, please speak to Rich. But actually there's just those ways that we connect with other people to just ask those questions. Not in a judgmental way, but just to encourage each other. Maybe it's how can I pray for you today? We need to be asking each other. Is there something specific I can pray for you that will help you through today? Is there a part of the armour that you feel like you're really struggling with? How can I support you with that? What can I do to help you with that? To help each other run the race. Because it should never just be about how well we're doing, but it needs to be about how we're all doing as a church. I'm going to just pray. Heavenly Father, I thank you, thank you for your word. I thank you for the way it helps us and guides us and protects us. It's easy in this world today to be fearful. It's easy to be kind of swayed one way or another by what is happening around us. But I pray that we would remember that you are God. You are on your throne. That you are strong and powerful. And that we can trust in you. That even when we don't understand where the road might be leading, that we know you have a purpose and that the destination is good. Would you help remind us each day that we need to stand it and walk it in you? And enable us to gently remind each other to lean on you. And that where we are weak, that we allow others to step into the gap for us and help us stand firm. And I pray that as a church family, we would truly know that uncommon unity as we walk through this together. That we would stand firm together and enable each other to put on the armour. That we might be ready for what you have for us. Amen.